Okay, so we're all here today. Let's get started. Well, I don't have a whole lot to tell you, so we'll end up using a lot of the time as filler, and the whole point is basically to convince you of just one thing, okay? And that is that you really don't need a teacher to teach you anything. Okay, now this is a paradox. What you need is someone to convince you that within you is all the answers that you need. That by going inside yourself and using your mind properly, you can find the solutions to each of your challenges and much more. And that much more is where my expertise is in. So we have the basics to go over maybe and all of that. But again, let me reiterate, I don't have anything to teach you. I'm here through this period of time to sort of convince you that you are the one who has all the answers. You are the authority. You are the one that is creating your reality. And I can explain in detail all of this. Plus, this is the neat part, I was as skeptical as a lot of you may be. If some of you were just about ready to be convinced, what I've already said is enough for you to now be to the point where you can do it. If you're at another point where this sounds sort of unbelievable, and as we go along today, more and more of what I say sounds sort of unbelievable, then don't worry. It took me years to become convinced because I myself believe a lot in rationality and repeatability and skepticism, and I don't want to give any wrong information to anybody. I don't want to lead anybody down the wrong path. So all of this that I'm going to be teaching and talking about, I have experience so that at least I know that one person can do it. And the truth is, if one person can do it, then I know many, many other people can. I'm not special other than that we are all unique and special. And that in itself is also so wonderful. So let's figure out, I think I'm going to end the talk to start with. So that is the end of the talk. I hope that you enjoyed it. And the rest of it, we will basically be doing examples, stories, question and answers, whatever we need to do in order to help any of you understand the whole point of what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go in that direction. How about this? Okay, so basically what I'm going to be talking about is reality creation. At some point, you reach the realization that you were here on Earth and your mind is basically in control of what you do, how you behave, and your choices that you're going to make. However, it is very interesting what happened before that stage, and it's even more interesting that most of us don't have very clear memories of the first few years of our life after we are born. So all of these are, in a way, clues. I started this path by studying anomalies, and I started very young. Even at the age of 5, I had a strong desire to learn to become invisible, and have since realized that, yeah, I might be able to become invisible, but that's only part of it. The whole thing is, if I become invisible, then where do I go? So the challenges, desires, or questions that we have, shall we say, the ability to create more probabilities for us to explore. And it actually becomes endless. So what I'm saying is the fact that I had such a strong desire to learn to become invisible, again, the same thing sort of happened as when I realized I couldn't even remember being born. Say I did finally learn to become invisible, well, it usually implies that I would travel to another space, which what we would maybe call another dimension. And in that sense, you could say that I was being either transported or born in that reality. So that's a repeat in a way, because here I was just focusing on the exit, the invisibility part, and forgot to think about, shall we say, the transition or birth into another dimension. And to carry that a little bit farther, I'm not talking about dying. I want to learn to do all of this while I'm alive. I realize again that very few people on the earth do this, as far as consciously make their bodies disappear and are able to direct it and change dimensions at will. However, it is not unheard of, and I even know of an example I read about. Brad Steiger wrote about it back in, I don't know, I was in the 70s. I read his book, so he had recounted a lecture that had been put on by a person who was lecturing in front of a group of people, and he disappeared while he was standing in front of the entire group of people for a couple minutes. And of course it caused a lot of consternation, and he actually reappeared in one of the chairs that was on the stage, and was surrounded, for basically people concerned for what happened in his health. And he did say it felt like he was having a heart attack, and I did not get any of the details of what happened in between, nor I don't know much more than that aspect of the story, but that was an observed example of it occurring. Now, since then, I have learned that, yes, the transition does feel like you're dying. All you have to do is wait during that period. The important thing is don't give in to mental or physical fear. Basically, any time, okay? You can be fearful and use that as an indicator when you're doing some of these deep explorations and just choose to stop what you're doing. Because there are some things that all of this gets into exploring what we would consider the unknown, and that being, we're sort of like in kindergarten, just beginning to learn how to, shall we say, leave the planet using our mind rather than leave the planet using spaceships. And so once you start doing that, you have to learn some of the basic inner laws of the inner universe, and this is the part where maybe my talk or my teaching or my experiences or examples or tidbits of information or secrets or whatever it is you want to call it can eventually maybe convince you that about my opening statement, that you yourself have all the answers inside of you. It's simply that you need to change your belief so that you believe that you have all the answers, and then you could start your own personal journey on your own. So maybe we ought to go in the direction of learning how to change your beliefs. And that is one of the basics. There are a couple other basics I'll mention. We have to sort of break out of our cultural conditioning in order for us to reach our full potential here on Earth. And that is, we have accepted beliefs. Sometimes they were given to us by our parents, other times from TV, movies, on and on and on. And we sort of accepted them without really examining them. So we need to learn to examine not only the contents of our mind, but also each thought that we have, and monitor it and start paying attention to how we are programming ourselves. In addition to that, then we have to basically reprogram what would be beliefs that we have that are hindering, in a way, some of the progress or desires that we have in order to move in that direction. So everything has a purpose. Everybody is in the right place at the right time, and don't have to worry about that. Everybody here hearing my words, this is not a coincidence. You're here because you're ready for this information. So let's focus on how to change a belief, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so let's use as an example one that I think is, well, there's two very important beliefs to learn, and actually on top of that there's three others that are very important to learn, and you can go the rest of your life, and I believe in an afterlife, so you could go forever if you understand these five beliefs. I've already mentioned one of them. Okay. So what I'm going to do is actually go back and hit the heart of the matter. Okay. And that is that most of us say we have problems, and with our self-talk, we reiterate those either through sarcastic remarks or cynical remarks that we think are humorous or trying to be clever, and don't really spend a whole lot of time in the opposite direction, being as positive as we are being, shall we say, negative. However, it is your choice how you want to live your life. I'm simply here to help you to learn how to change your beliefs so that you can, once again, remember the very beginning of all this. My whole purpose is simply to convince you that you are the authority that has all the answers within you. And so everything I'm saying now is sort of the fluff or the convincing part. Okay. So in this case, because of the way we've been culturally conditioned, we have a high level tendency to look outside ourselves for answers, okay? So that's where we're starting most of the time. And the entire civilization actually is structured that way. So what I am talking about actually would lead to, in a way, the next step of evolution, only it would be a conscious change. And we're going to do this. It's simply a matter of when. So that's another aspect that I'll hit on in just a little bit. But the first one is this. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your inner self? And when I say inner self, in that case, what I'm talking about is we know that beyond our ego, deeper within us, we may call it, the subconscious, the id, whatever you want to. There is some aspect that is creating our body and maintaining our body. And it's not us. We don't tell ourselves to breathe. We don't tell our heart to pump. We don't tell ourselves to have the literally billion exchanges of molecules each moment. And you can say it's automatic if you want, but in actuality, this is the inner self that I'm talking about, and even more. The inner self not only is creating our body and maintaining it, it also is connected to a much deeper level of what I would call multidimensionality. And just as another little throw-in, from which we come, okay? So the question is, do you trust yourself? Now, the reason that's important is because the answer is no, most of us don't. And even though we could become convinced quite easily, we've just been conditioned not to. And one of the easiest ways to know whether you trust yourself is, do you automatically trust a stranger? And most of us would say no. You have to have a period of time where you get to know that person and blah, blah, blah. Well, the truth is, the reason you don't trust other people, whether it be a stranger or someone you know at various levels, is because you don't trust yourself. Now, that's one of those things that I told you, I may say, that sounds unbelievable, okay? And that's fine. This is going to depend on how much you want to take in, how open of a mind you have. And most important, like I said, none of this matters what happened to me, it's what happens to you. So if you take my ideas and turn them around, or don't use them, or use them until you experience them and then understand them and can teach them, that's all up to you. But I have taken great pains to verify that all of this is correct. So, the one belief that is very important that eventually you will want to change is to trust yourself. And I'm going to do a little side note, okay, to help you understand how this occurs. We've all heard about the pursuit of happiness. Well, those words sort of set us off in the wrong direction, because that means that you're looking for happiness outside yourself. Mostly that's how people interpret it. In actuality, happiness is a choice. It's a characteristic. Sometimes, even under the most horrible conditions, you can still marvel at many aspects of the moment that are occurring, even though the conditions are not favorable, and that is because the attention that you give is what you tend to focus on and exaggerate. I personally know this because I deal with very difficult situations. I'm a ICU trauma nurse, taking care of post-surgical gunshot wound patients, motor vehicle accident patients, and very tragic situations. And yet, in the whole process, have learned not only myself how to cope with this, but what to accentuate in order for each moment to be better and improve. Okay, so if you don't pursue happiness, but in actuality choose to be happiness, you can see where I'm going. The analogy is, the reason we don't trust ourselves is because that's how we've been conditioned, okay? So therefore, you change your belief, and you change your belief to trust yourself. Now, the advantages are just immense. However, for me, it took decades, okay? And hopefully not for you it will, but when all this started, I did not want to lead people down the wrong path. That's what it boils down to. So I would take a long time before I would get to this point of being able to speak what I would consider good information that is helpful. And that's another thing that's connected with that. Before you can love somebody, you have to love yourself. Before you can trust somebody, you have to trust yourself. Before you can help somebody, you have to help yourself. I mean, all of this is somewhat an extension of you towards another person. We tend to project a lot. It works both ways, of course, again, because a lot of us focus on problems. At first, a lot of times we think about who else we could blame for our problems. And as you can guess what I'm going to say, that is yourself. Getting there and understanding that is one of the things that really is a stumbling block for a lot of people. But I'm just telling you that eventually you're going to have to trust yourself sometime, so why not start now, okay? What this does is it gives you the power back, and that's what you want. You want to be empowered. You want to be able to be the one to control your life. You want to be the one to create your life. You want to be the one to change things. You want to be the one to make your dreams come true. And that is done by you. And it is also not done by you if you carry beliefs within you that limit that. All right, that's one of the beliefs to change. Another one is, I live in a safe universe. Now, most of you will hear this and extend out and immediately go to the extremes and say, well, that's silly because of all of the negative, shall we say, programming that we are constantly bombarded with. And you can say, even some of you have experienced these negative experiences. However, if you are following some of my premises, I had just got done explaining that all of our problems are our own. We have to own our own problems. So even our negative experiences are created by us. Although that may not be palatable, it gives you the power back to change not only your future, and this will be another unbelievable statement, you do have the power right now to change the past. I could go into quantum mechanics and all of that, which they realize that there is no reason why the arrow of time has to go in the direction it is. And that is true. It not only goes forwards and backwards, it also goes inside, outside, and the full 360 that I used as my inner blue sphere expanding idea, time is the same way. All time is now, time is simultaneous, and we are constantly drawing from probabilities and collapsing the wave function, and that is being done by our belief system. We are the observer. With that said, I'm not going to go into detail today on changing past events, but my point is this: you definitely have the ability to affect now. And that's a big deal. Because as you'll soon realize, there is only now. Even in the future, when you get there, it's now. And I will just give you a hint. The past, when that was occurring, was now. Okay? So the point now is to live in a safe universe. Now, the best wording is, I live in a safe universe. And so that limits it to your universe. That will work. You will bring peace to yourself, and if all of us did that, then we would have peace on earth. Now, when you choose to believe I live in a safe universe, this will lead you to many other beliefs that you might have that don't quite coincide with that. And those are going to be some of these beliefs that I want you to change. So that's why I focused on how to change a belief, in order for you to understand now what you would need to do. Your first step of trusting yourself is going to lead you to trust what would be called intuition, the quiet inner voice, which, by the way, is the first voice that you hear when something is occurring to you, and usually your ego is the second louder one that generally disses it and says, no, I can't do that because you're busy or you have many, many rationalizations. However, that first inclination is the one to at least take note of. You may not be able to act on it immediately. However, don't discard the information. You want to use it to your advantage. Impulses, if you get lucky, spontaneous illuminations are fabulous. Those connect you right up with the source, and then at that point, you know immediately. Knowledge can be passed on directly, bypassing words and rationality. And if that occurs to you, it's like you've taken a giant leapfrogged over many steps. Plus, it tends to have the effect that's most important, and that is decreasing self-importance, which, again, I can get to later. All right, so we're focused right now on I live in a safe universe. So you probably are going to have to do that belief changing process because of our cultural conditioning. And then as that occurs, you'll have literally thousands of examples if you watch the news and stuff like that, that doesn't seem like I live in a safe universe. However, I want you to understand that your personal environment is separate from what you're seeing on TV. Your personal environment is separate from the stories you hear even from me or other people. Your personal environment is the environment I'm talking about when you say, I live in a safe universe. And you can create that. If you need to, you can pretend it's a bubble that expands and eventually envelops the earth also, and the universe. The point being, you live in a safe universe. And once you change that belief, then that will manifest. Okay. What are the other three? Well, I said I'd already named one of them, and that is or let's put it this way, the present moment is my moment of power. The present is my moment of power. Or my moment of power is now. However you want to look at it, that is another belief that's very advantageous. Okay. Sort of self-obvious once I state it, yet extremely important to not only believe it, spend time pondering it, understand it, use it, experience it. And remember, once that gets to that process, it becomes wisdom, and you can teach it at any time. Okay, what's another one? All right, let's see. This one is a real key to be able to progress spiritually and psychically. And that this statement is, I have no limits. Or you can say, there are no limits to myself. Or you can say, I am limitless. Or you can say, there are no boundaries to the limits of myself. And all of these are the same thing, worded in whatever is best for you to understand. And the point is this. We have been brought up to believe that our consciousness basically resides in our brain, and that it doesn't extend outside of our skin or our body. Now, I'm going to say another one of those unbelievable statements. In actuality, it actually does. Everything that you see in your environment is you. And maybe the easiest way to understand that is light comes into your eyes that's reflected off these other objects and other people, and sounds come into your ears in the same manner. And even though you may think that the sound waves and light waves are not you, or that the other people are not you, in actuality, all of those perceptions, they have to be you, because they come into your mind and you're the one that does whatever it is you do with them in your brain. Most of the time, you filter out most of it in order to focus your attention on your task at hand. However, it does not negate the fact that you are your environment. Now, can you at will project your consciousness out of your body? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is you would have to learn how to do that. This is where, once you trust yourself and trust your inner self, you start awakening what would be called inner senses. And one of the inner senses is, now this comes from Jane Roberts, vibrational touch, where you can experience and merge with anything that you see, feel, hear, and actually even imagine. Because if you carry this into your dream world or start applying some of this to the dreams, you'll begin to see that you let your ego down even more in your dreams, and maybe a lot of what I'm explaining becomes more clear if you think of it as a dream. So the point of the second one is I am limitless. Okay. Now, what's another belief that is very helpful? And this belief is you make your own reality. Or I like to change things to a very personal level, so I would say I make my own reality. That belief is one that I would put into my mind, and in the process figure out which ones that I hold that are, shall we say, opposite of that, and those other beliefs I would figure out how to change them. You will be able to change a lot of the old beliefs quickly. One of them methods is just imagining that you're weeding a garden, and all you have to do is the